Avoda zara daf chav gimel amud aleph. The top line. The Gemara had asked earlier on. We have a stira between our Mishnah that says Oivd Gechavim is chashud on revia. In the case where a yid is not allowed to leave his animals by the inn of a guy because he's chashud that he's going to commit bestiality with it. And then we learned that one could be makiv a behema. One could be buy a behema from a guy, and we're not chashav for revia. So before we said that we answered baya in the guy, it's the yid's animals, so the guy is not concerned by living with the animal. But if it's his own animal, he wouldn't live with it because he's afraid maybe the animal won't reproduce. Kadesh Shaloi Te'aker. Ravina gives him no answer. Ravina Amaloi Kasha. Ravina says it's not a Kasha home. This I got with the Mishnah that says that you're not allowed to leave your animals by a goyish innkeeper lechatchila. That's talking about lechatchila. But this I got that says that you're allowed to buy the animal from a goy and we're not chashid l'revia is b'diavad. It's talking about b'diavad. Meaning chatchila you're not allowed to place a behemi yisrael by a pundik in of a goy because achshash shem yevayena. But b'diavad, if the behema was already in the hands of the goy, you don't say that he committed revia. In fact, from where do we know that there's a chilik b'minyanim that are goyim that are choshad on revia, that there's going to be a chilik bein lechatchila bein l'diavad. That lechatchila, we say you're not allowed to leave an animal, a Yiddish animal with a goy, but if you already did, we're not going to ask. The time that we learned in the Mishnah, it says in the Hemshech of our Mishnah, a woman shouldn't be alone with a goy because the chashud on Araya is that they commit adultery. Uramino, in fact, a woman that was captured in the hands of Goyim, because she owed money to the Goyim, when she becomes free, she's allowed to live with her husband. But if she was captured because she was judged to be killed, then she's forbidden to her baila, because we're chayshish, maybe she was nival to one of those that came to those that captured her. So from this Mishnah, you see that a isha that was captured in the hands of God because of mammon issues, she's mutter to her husband. So it comes out of Evdi Chavma, not chashad al arayis, not like the words of our Mishnah. Elalav shmamina, is it then not? Arrive from here, shiny law, bein lechatchila diyavet. That the kavanah of the Mishnah is telling us that it's lechatchila aser for a Yiddish woman to be alone with a guy, because of chashash, maybe the guy will live with her. But if she was already alone with him, we're not going to automatically say that there was a be'ilah. So, behesed to that, our Mishnah is showing you that a isha that was conquered because of money issues, she's after she's free, she's mutter to her husband. So it's mistaber to be mechalik that benegay to the chashash of revia. Our Mishnah is talking about that lechatchila you're not allowed to place the behema by a guy, but by the evidence once it was there, it's kosher lakrava. It's kosher to use it on the mizbeach. How do you know that you're chayshish lebeila only lechatchila? Really, I'll always say to you, afilu de'avad nami, loy, that even in the Evid, we don't allow a woman to be back with her husband if the woman was alone with the guy. The only reason over here we're going to allow it, because the guy is afraid that he's not going to get back his money, because if he'll live with the Jewish woman, they won't pay her back. She won't pay him, he won't get back his money. Take the Adaya, because they're telling the Sefer, because in the Sefer it says if she was conquered, if she was captured because of that she was Chayiv Misa, Asila Baila, she's Asila Baila, because they are Choshud That means even with the Avoda chashud. The only reason over there that he wasn't chashud because he didn't want to lose the money. The Gemara says v'sulei midri, meaning for sure the reason the Reisha that why the Isha is mutal abayla is because he's afraid he's going to lose the money, and therefore you cannot bring a raya that b'diavad not choshev. Rabbi Pedas Amar, Rabbi Pedas says like Kasha, he gives a different answer. This I know in the Mishnah says that you're not allowed. He's not allowed to leave his behemoths by a goy shein. Is his kirdas Rabbi Lezer? This that we said we could buy a behemoth from a goy for kabanes is abana. The Tanan that we learned them in the Mishnah in the gate to paraduma lagabi parasachatos lagabi the paraduma Rabbi Lezer ein nekachs minay cannot be bought from a goy. Chacham matinim, the chacham amat to buy it from a goy. My laba, how come if we? Isn't it not? This is what they're arguing. The Rebbe Lezer Sabachashin Levia. The Rebbe Lezer holds we're concerned that maybe the guy lived with the Parah Aduma, and that's why he says you're not allowed to buy from the guy. But the Rabbanan hold that we're not concerned for Revia, and therefore you could buy it for Kabbanis. You could buy it for the Parah Aduma. And that's how we'll answer. The Mishnah says you're not allowed to leave the animals by a guy shein is following the Shita of Rebbe Lezer, and the Bryce that says that you're allowed to buy an animal from a guy for kabbanis is following the shit of the Chachamim. But the Gemara says, how do you know Rebbe Lezer and Chacham are arguing in whether we're chayshish l'reviyah or not? Perhaps everybody agrees we're not concerned about reviyah. And here by paraduma, I know time Rebbe Lezer. This is the reason why Rebbe Lezer says you cannot buy a paradum from a guy. That Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Rabbi Niach Allah Uda Shalsakin. If a person left even empty sacks on the paradum, psala becomes puzzle because over there it says Mefedish Asher Loi Allah oil, any type of oil. By the Egel Harufim where see, the paradum is given for those that were tamei mes. So they would use the paradum to be tamei mes. There it says the word lo ala oil. So even empty sacks, I'm putting it on it, which is hardly any weight, it's still going to pass the paraduma. Is two. So if you found with that person between two cities, the Sanhedrin would measure to the one that's closest, and they would take the Egel to Nachal Eisa and cut off its head. So there also it's similar to paradum. No work can be done, but there it says what type of work. If you put empty sacks in it, it's not going to be possible. But if you meishech it with the oil, that's when it becomes possible. Till you pull it, the chavila with a package on it. Masa v'chayshina Rebbe Lezer holds that we're concerned that the guy put a masa cotton, a little lightweight on the potter, and that's why he says it's possible from being a potter aduma. Masa v'chayshina v'chachamim are not choishish for that they put empty sacks on it, and the potter is fit to be a potter aduma. Nothing to do with the reviyah or not. And when you want to lois al kadaitach, it shouldn't enter your mind to say that the reason of Rebbe Lezer is because he was afraid maybe the guy put a little masa on the paraduma, and that's why it's possible. Because of a little action, he's not going to want to lose so much money. He would never do such a thing. He would not put himself in such sakon to lose such a amount of money. But really, the reason of Rabbi Lezer, so that cannot be the reason why he said that the paradum is also because we're chayshish. He might have put a little masa on it. He would never do it. It has to be because of shashaviyah. In fact, say by Revi also, he would never live with the animal to lose such a amount of money. So you might know by Revia Hasam Yitzhak Taikvei. There we have to be chayshish. He did live with the animal because the Yitzhak is so strong. Like we said with the story with Nachash, with the mucker that Nachash lived with, was raped Chava, and he transmitted, or he brought into the Indian of Zuma that it became such a Yetzirah to live with animals. We see that even from Bilam. Bilam lived with his own donkey. This week's Pasha. Let us be concerned that, let us say, I'm sorry, the Gemara asks, let us say everybody is not concerned for Raviyah. And by Parah Aduma, why did Rabbi Lezer say it's us? I didn't tell Rabbi Lezer. This is the reason of Rabbi Lezer. The Tani Sheila. The Tani Sheila, that Sheila had learned. My time Rabbi Lezer. What's the reason of Rabbi Lezer? By Parah Aduma, it's going to be usher to buy from a guy because it says, the word V'yichu could be read V'yakchu. B'nei Yisrael Yakichu, meaning that the B'nei Yisrael will cause you to buy it, meaning they will sell you the Parah Aduma. But a guy cannot sell it. So since there's a pasuk, that's the Yisod of Rabbi Lezer that says that a guy cannot sell, we cannot buy from a guy the Parah Aduma. And not because we're choshed al Raviyah. And that's not the reason of the psul. You have no proof. Maybe we're not choshed Raviyah at all. Says Gemara, and the Gemara lays how it shouldn't enter your mind that the reason of Rabbi Lezer, the pasal of Parah that was bought from a guy is because of the V'yikhu V'yakhu, that he learns out from the word V'yikhu that could only be bought by a yid. The Ketani Sefer, because we learned the Sefer of that Mishnah, Rabbi Lezer Paisel, so too Rabbi Lezer pasal behemoths that were bought from a guy, B'chol HaKabanas Kolam. He said not only by Parah Aduma, he said by all karbanis. And if you're going to say Rabbi Lezer, the pasal, the Parah Aduma, the Tani Sheila, like Sheila says, you want to be shlan Parah Ksibakicha Taka by Parah Aduma. It says V'yikhu Elakul Karbanis Kicha Ksibalahu. But by all the other karbanis, does it then say Kicha? It doesn't say Kicha. So what's the reason that he said he cannot buy from a guy for other karbanis? Obviously, because Rabbi Lezer was concerned of Raviyah. So now the Gemara concludes and is makabel that the Rabbi Lezer does hold that choshud al Raviyah. So now the Gemara asks on Rabbi Pudas that says that the Chum argue on Rabbi Lezer and say chum are not choshud al Raviyah, and therefore you can buy the behemoths that are bought from a guy. You can kosher for all kamanis. Says the Gemara v'duma can't like pligi Rabbanan al Rabbi Lezer. Perhaps, maybe the Avoda don't argue with Rabbi Lezer, Ela Parah Aduma. They'll buy your car, only buy the case of Parah Aduma, you're not allowed to buy from a guy because it's so expensive. So there, the Chacham will agree that they will argue and say that it's mutter because he would never, he would hold himself back from living with a hema. Al b'shar kabbanis meidalei, but by other kabbanis, maybe the Chacham are agreeable to Rabbi Lezer that they would live with the animals, they're chashut, that they live with the animals and should be possible for kabbanis. Says you might really? The Rabbanan will argue and say by regular kabbanis it's asur. Ve'elav this b'raisa, the Tanya, this that we learned to b'raisa, like mehem behema carbon, that you're allowed to buy from the goyim a behema for the carbon is money. Who's going to be that shita? Like Rabbi Lezer. Not Rabbi Lezer, because Rabbi Lezer is always chashuv leviyah, and not the Rabbanan, because you said the Rabbanan are not chashuv leviyah only by dam yikarim, like by Parah Aduma. By regular kamanis they are. So who says that you could buy a behemoth from a guy and they cannot be? Well, it's a regular behemoth which is not dam yikarim, and according to Rabbanan, if it's not dam yikarim, we are chashuv. So who is it following that you could buy? Hey, we also learned to open a brayso. What did the Chachamim answer Rabbi Lezer when he paskin that the behemoth said the Chacham apsulis la'akrava? He said that they brought the pasuk. What did the Chacham say to Rabbi Lezer? That it is kosher in all the kabbalas because it says called Tzayin Kedar. All the Tzayin of Yishmael, Yikav Salach, you should gather. Yalo. Should be brought out of the Mizbeach. So you see that Rabbi Pudas answered that our Mishnah that says was learned according to Rabbi Lezer, but the Braisa that allows all kabbalas to be of a goy to be brought out of his bayach goes according to the Chacham that they're not choshesh leviyah. He says befeish they're not choshesh. You see that the befeish that they answer the Chacham answer and Rabbi Lazar that all the sign of Yishmael who were goyim were allowed to be brought out of his bayach. So obviously that the Chacham were not choshesh leviyah. Says after we concluded the stira between the Mishnah and the Braisa, so the Gemara goes now and talks more about Parah Aduma. Ad kan loy plogi. This machlekes of Rabbi Lazar Chacham by Parah Aduma is b'chashasha only by the chash that maybe the guy lived with the animal, but in a place, of course, where we didn't see the guy live with his parah, according to Rabbi Lazar, we are chayshish that the guy lived with it, but the Chacham say by parah aduma not chayshish. Aval heicha the vadediva. But in the case where we know for a fact we saw the guy live with the parah, pasla, according to everybody, it's possible from being a parah aduma. Shmami no, so we can imply from here that parah aduma is a kach mizbechi, has a din of kedushas mizbeach. And therefore it's possible Raviyah, even though it wasn't Keval Mizbeach. We know that the Parah Aduma was done outside. It wasn't put on Mizbeach. It was placed by outside facing the Mizbeach, but not. And that's where they made the Parah Aduma. Nevertheless, had a din as Kach Mizbeach to become possible Raviyah. The Kach Bedek Abayis, because if it was only included in the Kach Bedek Abayis for fixing the Beis Hamikdash, me possible Raviyah, could then the Parah Aduma become possible because of Aviyah? Kach Bedek Abayis doesn't become possible Aviyah. We know the Kedusha Bedek Abayis is chal on everything, even on stones. So it's a svara that the Aviyah shouldn't possible by behemoth that was this Kach Kedusha Zu says you want a shiny Parah. Parah Aduma is different than all the other things that were sanctified for the Kedusha of Bedek Abayis. The Chat is Karyach Mana. Because the Torah calls the Parah Aduma a chatas, like it says lemei nida chatasi. So from this we can learn out that it becomes possible Raviyah just like a carbon chatas. We know that a carbon chatas becomes possible from Raviyah. In fact, Yimar only now to possible let the Parah Aduma also be possible, but Yetzadayfen. If it came out through, if it was taken out through a cesarean and not the normal way of birth. Just like a parah, just like any carbon chatas is possible. And if you're going to say, yeah, it's possible if it was born through a cesarean, not its normal way. Allah Matani, why do we learn in the Braisa Ikdisha, but Yetzadayfen, if he's magnish the parah aduma of a Yetzadayfen through a cesarean psula, we have Shimon Marsha, and Shimon says, but it's kosher through a cesarean. How can Shimon be Marsha a parah that came out through a cesarean, if the pasuk is being medama parah aduma to a carbon chatas, and a carbon chatas, we said Yetzadayfen is going to be possible. If you want to say Rab Shimon Tamei, Rab Shimon goes according to his reasoning. The Amma, but he gave to Misleda, he said Yetzadayfen Valad Manalyo is considered as a regular vlad, and there was a machlekes. We know that when a woman gives birth to a zacha, there's 7 days of tumah, 33 days of tara. By a girl, if it's a nekeva, it's 14 days of tumah and 66 days of tara. Now, if it's going to be a Yetzadayfen, Rabbi Shimon says that a Yetzadayfen has a din as a regular leda, and therefore the tumah, all these din and tumah are applicable. But by kachim, he says it's not really kaddish b'kedusha's carbon, so the kasha comes back. If parah aduma is similar to a carbon chatas, how could Reb Shimon paskin that parah, which is Yitz's which came out through his cesarean, should be kosher to be a parah aduma? So the difference is, again, Reb Shimon argues with the Chacham benegay to a cesarean, if it has all the dinei tuma of Leda, like I just explained, that by a zach it's 7 days and 30 days of tuma, and 33 days of Tara, and by the Keva it's 14 days of tuma and 66 days of Tara. So but the Chacham hold if it's a cesarean, there's no din of tuma. But Rav Shimon says it has a din like a regular vlad, like that it has all the din of tuma. So that's what you're going to want to answer. That since Rav Shimon is tamei, that Yetzadayfin is a regular vlad. So therefore, Rav Shimon will hold the same thing. By the paraduma, if it came out through a C-section, it's not going to be possible because it has a din like a regular vlad. Says the Gemara, but it's not Kaddish, because the only reason why by a human it's going to have a din like a vlad by a woman, because it says we have the actual words even the keva seile. So Rabbi Shimon was mafarish from this review of the lashon. It comes to teach you that even a vlad that came out through a cesarean is a regular child. Okay, so but by kachim, by behema, we're not going to say it's not going to have the din of kedusha. It's not really to become sanctified the kedusha's carbon if it came out through a cesarean. So when the kasha comes back, if parah aduma is similar to a carbon chatas, how was Rabbi Shimon able to paskin that a parah that came out through a cesarean should be kasha from parah aduma? Says you want a shiny parah. Only parah aduma is different than all dvarim that are sanctified by kedushas bedek habayis. Shahil mum paisabah, because a mum by a parah aduma passes it. It says asher ein ba mum. And the var eva is like a nirva or Avoda zara, or something that was set aside for Avoda zara or was served as Avoda zara. Nami Paisaba is also included in the inyan of mum. And where do we say? So the Gemara explains the comparison of var eva and Avoda zara to mum. The Chsiv, for it's written by Kabbanis, which apostle, it says ki mashchas behem mumba. It says the lashon mum by kabbanis that apostle, and the Torah compares hashchasa to mum. The lashon hashchasa, wherever it says lashon hashchasa, has a din as a mum. The Tanda by Rabbi Yishmael, and Rabbi Yishmael had learned a brais in the basement, or it was learned. A brais was learned in the basement of Rabbi Yishmael. Wherever it says in the Torah hashchasa, Avoda zara is referring to Dava Eva and Avoda zara. Va'eva d'chsiv ki hishchis kobasa es dake al haaretz. It says by Va'eva the lashon hashchasa, and the kilkul over there was by the der hamabel through arayes. Avoda zara, and what do we see by Avoda zara? It says also lashon hashchasa d'chsiv pent hashchislum vasis lechem pesel. So you see when the Torah says Lo sakriva mikol elokim ashchasim b'hem mumbam. The kavanah of the pasuk has come to tell you to be makish behemoths that were nirva, or set aside for avodah zara, or served as avodah zara, are similar to a mum. V'haparanami, and so too b'negei to para aduma, even though it's not keva al mizbeach, but it has the kedusha of bedek habayis. Nevertheless, hayil mum paisuba. Since a mum passes it, like it says in the pasuk, va'eva va'avidis kechavim pasli ba. So this is the reason why para that was nirva is going to be pasul. Is a pasul to be a paraduma. So the reason is not because it's compared to a chatas. It's really part of a kachah bedek habayis, but by paraduma it has a special psul of mum. And any lashon hashchasa is, and we compare the pasuk compares hashchasa to mum, and nirva is in the ged of hashchasa, like we found the pasuk that it says kihishchis, and therefore it's going to be pasul mitzad the mum, mitzad the nirva is hating of dvava eva, where it says lashon hashchasa. That's why it's going to be pasul. Zakti Maragufa, we had previously learned Tani Sheila, that Shela had learned my time. The Rebbe Lazar, what's the reason that Rebbe Lazar passes a behemoth that was bought from a guy? That when he saw v'yichol, we used the lashon, we changed the nikodis to vayakicho, that it'll cause to sell, it'll cause to buy, meaning that a yid will cause to buy. He'll be the meicha b'nei Yisrael yakicho. The b'nei Yisrael from a b'nei Yisrael will sell us the paraduma. Only a b'nei Yisrael could sell it. But the Chacham cannot be meichem for the paraduma. Now that you dash this dasha, so what about by Tumas HaMishkan? It also says a lashon v'yichu. It says daven b'nei Yisrael v'yichu litruma. Achinam b'nei Yisrael yakichu. It says that the b'nei Yisrael can only buy from Yiddish merchants for the need of the Mishkan. But Eivid Kecham cannot sell merchandise to a Yid for